Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally reached the last match day in the Champions League phase. Yes, we have reached the 8th match day in the league phase, the last match day, and in this match day, it will determine whether your team is being eliminated or whether you will make it to the knockout stages. As you can see, I'm wearing my Napoli jersey because I need to fully support them. They currently sit in 25th place and they need to make it into the knockout stages. But as always, in today's video, I'm going to be predicting the results for every single match. And obviously, if you agree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree with my predictions, remember to leave your predictions down below and you could have a chance to win a $50 Amazon card. Yes, you heard that. I'm giving away a $50 Amazon card to the first person that can correctly predict 4 exact score lines. No one's won it for the last 2 match days, so hopefully one of you guys can win it in this match day. But without further ado, let's get right into these predictions. Starting off with the first match, we have Ajax against Olympiacos. Both of these teams are coming off of good results, as Olympiacos ended up surprisingly beating Leverkusen 2-0 in the last match day when Ajax beat Villarreal 2-1. This is a must-win game for Olympiacos because they currently sit in 24th place, and if they lose this game, they most likely will not make it into the knockout stages. But with that being said, I do think this game will sadly end in a draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2 result. Moving on to the next match, we have Arsenal against Kairat Almaty. I'm sorry, but is this any question about who's going to win? We have the team who sit in first place. They've won 7 out of 7 games. They've beat teams like Bayern Munich, Inter Milan against Kairat Almaty, the team who sit in last place, and they've gotten 1 draw and 6 losses from the first 7 games. This has got to be the most easiest prediction in this Champions League. Arsenal have been the best team this season in the Champions League and the Premier League. They're absolutely incredible. They have so much depth, and the way that they play football is incredible. The way that they can score goals off any set piece, off any corner, is a real big threat to any other team in this competition. So with that being said, I got Arsenal beating Kairat Almaty 4-0. The next game we got is Atletico against Sporting. Both of these teams have been very surprising in recent Champions League match days because at the start of this competition, they both had a little bit of a slow start. But Atletico in recent matches got a draw against PSG, and they also recently beat Atalanta, when Sporting, on the other hand, in their last match day, beat PSG 2-1. Sporting currently sit in 10th place. They're 100% due to the knockout stages, when Atletico, on the other hand, currently sit in 23rd place. And if they fail to win this game, the chances of being knocked out are very high. I'm calling it from now. We can definitely see another Luis Suarez hat trick. This guy is such an underrated striker. So with that being said, I'm going to predict Sporting to win this game 3-2. Moving on to the next game, we have Atletico Madrid against Bodø Glimt. I called it in the last match day that Bodø Glimt could upset Manchester City, and that is exactly what they did. They won 3-1, and they were fantastic in the game. Yes, they didn't hold possession, but their counter-attacking play and their ability to make the best out of even the smallest chances really helped them in that game. But coming up against Atletico Madrid in the Metropolitano, I don't see Bodø Glimt being able to win this game. When they play in Norway, they're very, very strong, but when they're playing away, they look like a different team. I'm going to predict that Atletico Madrid will win this game 2-0, and they will advance into the knockout stages. Moving on to the next game, we have Barcelona against Copenhagen. Once again, this is a must-win game for Copenhagen, as they currently sit 1 place behind Napoli with a -6 goal difference. So their goal difference is very, very poor, and sadly against Barcelona, I don't see it getting any better. Yes, Copenhagen are a decent team at home, but similar to Bodø Glimt, when they play away from home, they don't look like the same team. And especially coming up against a team like Barcelona, who, yes, I will admit, are very vulnerable on counterattacks and with their poor defensive performances this season. But at the same time, they have arguably the best attack in Europe, with players like Lewandowski, Ferran Torres, Rashford, Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, Dani Olmo, Rooney. They have some incredible attackers. I can only see Barcelona winning this game, and it's very surprising that they will most likely finish in the top 8. I'm going to predict a 3-1 win for Barcelona. Moving on to the next game, we have Leverkusen against Villarreal. How have Villarreal been this bad in the Champions League? In La Liga, they currently sit in 3rd place. They've been incredible, having already 41 points. But in the Champions League, they sit in second last. I find it very surprising that a team who in La Liga are very good, they can score multiple goals every game, have been struggling so much in the Champions League, and even against some of the poorer teams, like against a team like Ajax, they still struggle to score multiple goals. And that's why in the first 7 games, they've only scored 5 goals and they've conceded 15. Now, Leverkusen haven't been the best either, but against Villarreal, I can only see Leverkusen getting the win. So I'm going to predict that Bayer Leverkusen win this game 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Benfica against Real Madrid. Yes, Real Madrid do have problems. They recently lost their manager Xabi Alonso and they hired Arbeloa. Now, so far since he's been in, the results have been a little bit mixed. They did lose their first game in the cup against Albacete, but then they got a very good result in La Liga, and in the last game, they smoked Monaco 6-1. I think this shows you how good Real Madrid are in the Champions League, because even when they are struggling in La Liga, they always perform in the Champions League. And with their attackers that they have, players like Mbappe, players like Vinicius Jr., I think Benfica are definitely susceptible to multiple goals in this match. Paredes did recently leave Benfica to join Real Madrid, and he's been fantastic with them. So I don't see Benfica being able to win this game. I'm going to predict a 3-1 win for Real Madrid. Moving on to the next game, we have Borussia Dortmund against Inter Milan. Inter have been having a very mixed season because in the Serie A, they currently sit in first place. And when they're coming up against mid-table teams, lower level teams, they're absolutely incredible. They can score 2, 3, 4 goals and absolutely demolish the other team. But when they come up against the biggest teams, they struggle. They've struggled against AC Milan. They've lost against Juventus. They've lost against Napoli. And in the Champions League, they lost all 3 of their last games against Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, and most recently against Arsenal. So it's clear as day that Inter Milan are struggling against the best teams in the world. The one thing I will say about Borussia Dortmund is that their strikers, Serhou Guirassy, has really been struggling to score goals this season. And on the attack in general, if the goals don't come from other areas of the pitch, then they do struggle in those games. But with how poorly some of their players have been performing recently, I'm going to back Inter Milan to get the win. I'm going to predict that Inter win this game 2-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Club Brugge against Marseille. Marseille currently sit in 19th place with Club Brugge sitting in 27th place. But with that being said, Marseille are just too good of a team in my opinion. Yes, away from home, they don't perform as well. And yes, in their last match day, with the home advantage, they got smoked by Liverpool 3-0. And to be honest, it probably could have been 6. But I still don't think that Club Brugge can win this game. Yes, I think it will be a very close match, but I'm going to have to go with a 1-1 draw. The next game we got is Eintracht Frankfurt against Tottenham Hotspur. Frankfurt have been so poor this season. In the Bundesliga, they're conceding 4 or 5 goals every single game. And in the Champions League, it's a similar story. They sit near the bottom of the Champions League and they have no chance to qualify to the knockout stages. We've seen some very poor results from them in recent weeks, and especially losing against Qarabag, which I did predict because Qarabag at home are a decent team. But Frankfurt need to do better. They're conceding so many goals, and against Tottenham, a team who are very inconsistent, I think they will concede more goals. I would love it if Frankfurt could get an upset against Tottenham, but I just can't see it happening. So with that being said, I'm going to predict a 2-1 win for Tottenham. Moving on to the next game, we have Liverpool against Qarabag. Liverpool have been such a weird team this season because for the first month or 2 months, they were absolutely phenomenal, winning every single game. But then for the next 2 months, they were horrible. They were losing and drawing almost every single game they played. But now, since December, they're once again performing incredibly and they're winning pretty much every game they play. So honestly, I don't even know what to predict. I do feel like Arne Slot is a great manager, and Qarabag, yes, when they're playing at home, we see them get good results. We saw them beat Frankfurt. We saw them get a great result earlier on against Chelsea. But away at Anfield, I got Liverpool winning this game 3-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Man City against Galatasaray. Man City were not good enough in the last match day. We saw Rodri get a red card, which is very poor from him, and they lost 3-1 against Bodø Glimt. And even though they had so much possession in that game, they couldn't do anything with it. And that is a problem that Man City have been having this season, because if Haaland is not on form, if Haaland isn't scoring the goals, then who is going to score? Yes, we've seen Doku here and there pop up with a few goals. We've seen Foden pop up with a few goals. But other than that, they don't really have any scorers. And with all the injuries that Man City have in their defense, it makes them really susceptible to conceding goals as well. Sadly for Man City, I do think this will be another result that they don't necessarily want. I don't think they're going to be able to win this game. Galatasaray are a great team and they have some very, very good attackers that can really punish Man City. So for that reason, I'm going to predict a 2-2 draw. Moving on to the next game, we have Monaco against Juventus. Monaco started off this Champions League campaign very well. If you remember, they got a great result against City and they also got another decent result. But since then, they have been so poor, both in the Champions League and in the Liga as well. In their domestic league, they currently sit around mid-table, and in the Champions League, they sit pretty far down. And Juventus, other than the recent 1-0 loss against Cagliari, they've been very good. Their progressive play has been fantastic. Weston McKennie has been a savior for them in this Champions League, popping up with goals every game he plays. Monaco need to get this win, but they've just been conceding way too many goals in all their recent games. So for that reason, I'm going to predict a 3-2 win for Juventus. Moving on to the next game, we have Pafos against Slavia Prague. I gotta say, even though both of these teams did lose their last matches, they both performed pretty well. We saw Slavia Prague lose 4-2 against Barcelona, but they did end up getting 2 goals, which was pretty good by them. And Pafos, they lost 1-0 against Chelsea, but they were defending pretty well for a majority of that game. But in this game, I just don't see Pafos being able to defend Slavia Prague. I feel like Slavia Prague showed us some very good things from their attackers in that game against Barcelona, and if they perform that well in the attack against a team like Pafos, I can only see Slavia Prague getting the win. So I'm going to predict a 2-1 win for Slavia Prague. Moving on to the next game, we have PSG against Newcastle. Honestly, PSG need to get back on track, and it's not like they're suffering from crazy injuries. It's just that their attack is not scoring the goals that they need. Dembele, Doué, and especially Barcola haven't been scoring the goals that they were last season in recent matches, and they need those goals for PSG to get the win. Playing at the Parc des Princes, I'm going to predict a 2-0 win for PSG. Moving on to the next game, we have PSV against Bayern Munich. 3-0 against Newcastle with all the injuries that Newcastle have, and to be honest, it could have been more. PSV were not good in that match. If you look at them in the Eredivisie, they're fantastic. They're currently 15 points clear at the top of the table, but in the Champions League, recently, they haven't been as good as you would like. Bayern Munich currently sit in 2nd place. They've been fantastic. They're one of the best teams in the world. The only loss they got was against Arsenal. So for that reason, I'm going to predict Bayern Munich to beat PSV 3-1. Moving on to the next game, we have Napoli against Chelsea. Please, Antonio Conte, you have not been good enough in this Champions League. Your in-game management has been poor, and obviously your history in the Champions League is trash, but you need to turn it around now. You need to get this win for us. 0-0 against Frankfurt, 1-1 against 10-men Copenhagen, 2-0 loss against Benfica are not good enough, but I gotta keep faith. Chelsea are going through a few of their own personal struggles. Obviously, they recently appointed their manager, Liam Rosignol, and he looks okay, but he doesn't have the experience that Conte has. And even though Conte's experience in the Champions League isn't necessarily good experience, I do hope that in this game, it can come into fruition and he can finally win against Chelsea. I'm scared for Conte's life. I don't know what the Napoli fans are gonna do. So with that being said, I'm gonna predict Napoli to beat Chelsea 2-1. And finally, the last match is Union Saint-Gilloise against Atalanta. I feel like Atalanta have been surprising in this Champions League, and in the last match day, for a certain point, they were sitting in the top 5, but obviously after suffering that bad loss against Athletic Club, they ended up dropping all the way down to 13th place. And under Pellegrino, yes, he's maybe been a little bit inconsistent, but I think he has to win this game, and I do think he will be able to win this game. I think Atalanta have some very good attackers. We've seen De Ketelaere, we've seen Lookman perform incredibly in this Champions League. So with that being said, I'm going to predict a 2-1 win for Atalanta. And that's the end of this video. Those were my predictions for the 8th match day in the Champions League phase. As always, remember to leave your predictions down below and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. And also, you could have a chance to win the $50 Amazon card. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for my knockout stage predictions.